Start planning your 2025 travel with a getaway to Salishan Coastal Lodge, where wellness, adventure, and sustainability meet on the Oregon coast. It's the perfect place to reconnect with yourself, loved ones, and nature, all while enjoying 20% off stays with code CITYCAST. Make 2025 a year of intentional restorative travel. Book your stay at salishan.com with code CITYCAST to save 20% and start the year with purpose and connection. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Portland dive bars are just built differently. If you're a longtime listener, you know the producers and I have talked extensively about all the reasons why our city's sticky floored neighborhood spots are superior to those found in other parts of the country. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Alex Frayne, Portland Monthly's food and drink editor. He recently compiled a list of what he thinks are Portland's most quintessential dive bars and has some pretty hot takes on what even constitutes a dive bar. And even hotter takes on why he left some very popular picks off the list. It's Wednesday, December 18th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. So your list includes 13 bars all over Portland, and I'm sure you've probably heard from so many people being like, why wasn't this bar in?
Only one bar.
Oh, really?
It's been like 5 different people, but it's all been the same bar. And
Can I guess which one it is?
Oh, you know what it is, and I never going to talk about it at some point, so.
Well, it's Slim's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
I love that 5 people have brought it up. They're like,
I think it was
I'm
5,
sorry.
something like that. I think I might be including you in that, though, honestly, like preemptively. Might be like 4 others than you.
But I'm assuming that other people might also just be like, why isn't this bar? You know, because I think in Portland, we all think we know dive bars. We know what it is. But I realize that we all have different criteria.
Absolutely.
So how did you go about compiling the list? Like, what were your parameters of a dive bar?
So that's a really good question. So I've written about dive bars for Eater Portland in the past. That was a number of years ago. And then over the years, I've had a lot of conversations that I feel like other people have had as well about exactly that very thing, you know, what constitutes a dive bar. And I also think that that's somewhat regional.
Right.
So for me, what my criteria was a couple different things. One of them I think is important that maybe doesn't get talked about enough is that they have to have some sort of history to them. Mm-hmm. People always want to open a dive bar. You know, I've been covering bar openings for about a decade now, and I can't count how many times people have told me like, "Oh, we're thinking this is going to be like a wine bar, dive bar, or like a speak."
You can't open a dive bar.
No, you cannot open a dive bar. A dive bar exists.
It's like someone trying to give yourself a nickname.
Absolutely.
You know, like you can't
That's
do it.
That's a good way
man.
to put it. That's a really good way to put it. Try to give yourself a nickname. Absolutely. And I also feel like a lot of the times people who are saying that they're opening a dive bar, all they mean is that. Actually, I don't even know what they mean. I think often they're just kind of saying that in the same way that they might
they're
use speakeasy as a term.
They're going to have PBRs, right? They're just like,
exactly.
we're going to have tall boys. So, you know, pretty divey.
Same way that I don't feel like speakeasy is an actual, like, definable term at all because we no longer have prohibition, so we no longer have the need to have, you know, secretive bars where people can hide liquor. So for me, dive bars have to have existed for a certain amount of time. They have to have built like a clientele. A lot of the places on my list have been open since the 50s or some of them a little bit earlier, but for the most part, most of those bars have been around for decades. And
yeah, Slim's has been around since the early 1900s. I don't know, just saying.
Slim wasn't on my list, though. So.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Well, I just want to talk about speakeasies, too, because I feel like, I mean, I know I don't know if are you a bartender?
I was. So I started in the service industry before I started writing about the service industry.
Yeah, and people can't see you, but you have, like, the best bartender mustache.
Thanks.
But all the speakeasies I've been to, what makes them a speakeasy is that you could possibly trip on your way there. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like a little perilous to like find it, but that's it. You know, they're just like, yeah, you're going to have to go down another set of stairs.
I will say really quickly that if you ever go to the Bible Club, it's absolutely worth a trip there because it's the only place that I think can really like call itself a speakeasy, not because it's necessarily secretive, although it is like a little tricky to find. But the reason I feel like they can actually carry that moniker is that every single piece of equipment, every piece of furniture, down to the screws holding in the light fixtures, they're all from the 1920s or earlier. And so, you know, it's basically like a living museum of the speakeasy era. And that's, I think, extremely cool, and they can definitely use that name then.
Wait, is that the one in Selwood?
That's the one in Selwood.
Okay, so my friend and I were going to meet there. None of us could find it.
Oh, well, hey, there you go. There it is.
Because we're just like, oh, it's a fucking house. Like, we couldn't find, and like, we ended up going to another bar because we're just like,
You couldn't find it. So did you go to Kay's around the block? Is that where you went?
yeah, and we love Kay's.
Great,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, Kay's
Yeah.
and good food, whatever. Okay, we're getting out.
So okay, actually, that brings me to it. So one of my definitions for a dive bar, and there is one notable exception on my list, is that it cannot have good food. It cannot be like a food destination.
Interesting.
The obvious exception on my list that I included was Reelman, but my favorite dive bars I haven't been to for a hot minute, which is Ship Ahoy over on Gladstone. When I used to go there pretty regularly, I would get their $1 hot dogs in the evening. And I remember one time I went there and I asked for a hot dog, and the bartender, who was the chef, obviously they don't have like someone in the kitchen
Yeah, of course,
there. Yeah. He went back to get my hot dogs, and he came back and was like, hey, we're out of buns. Do you mind if I just use like some bread? And I was like, yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Throw it on a piece of bread.
It's like all split.
Exactly. But now they're $5 because inflation has completely wrecked our entire world.
So here's the deal. I was ready to fight with you because I saw Reel 'Em In, and I'm like, I'm sorry. People only go to Reel 'Em In for the food.
Right.
But I'm glad you said it was an exception. I do think that you just hit something. If your bartender is your cook,
Is the chef.
you
Right.
might be at a dive bar. Yeah.
That's true. But also there's like a lot of small time bars that only have like a single person working in them that also might be running back to the kitchen. But that's definitely a good indicator.
Yeah.
One of my first indicators, though, is if the floor is either carpeted or sticks to your feet.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard, we did an episode and that was exactly what we also said.
I listened to an earlier episode about dive bars where somebody was talking about getting not kicked out of a dive bar, but avoiding it because of some questionable behavior that they had gotten up to there.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I don't want anyone to forget. That was our producer, Julia, and it was at Wildwood.
That was Julia. That's right. It was Wildwood, yes. And Wildwood is one that I actually regret missing out on. I haven't been there yet.
You should go back with Julia, by the way.
I would love to.
They
Fantastic.
really know her
if
there.
she's going back there now.
She just wrote, literally never. At the end of that episode, I also asked where everyone would get married, and she actually chose Wildwood.
I remember that, yeah.
So
yeah.
it's a spot, yeah. So we now know the parameters. I'm assuming.
Oh, there's one more, though.
Go ahead.
The last one. Okay, so there's a lack of food. There's something to do with the floor, either carpeted or sticky. And then I also think that a really strong indicator that you're at a dive bar is the quality of its bathroom.
Like you would rather go home
Absolutely.
than go there.
Yeah. Especially if you're somebody who needs to sit down on a toilet.
Yeah.
Like I went into Scooters while I was doing research for this, and I checked out the men's bathroom, and there's no lock on the door, it just swings open. And there's no stall, but there is a toilet, and it is directly facing a urinal. So it's ostensibly for like two people. You know, there's no way to like lock the door when you're in there privately. So even Real has kind of a sketchy bathroom.
Yeah.
And that's like the fanciest bar on my list, you know?
Well, let's talk about the bars that didn't make your list. So why didn't Slims make your list?
Slims didn't make my list because I wanted to get as much engagement as possible, and the most effective way to do that is to enrage people.
You just enraged me?
I'm completely joking. No, I had spent some time in St. John's during the kind of the darker era of the pandemic. I was actually living up there at my friend's house, and I just kind of came to like Perch. So when I was doing my research for the story, I was like, I'm just going to put Perch on there because I really like that weird little bar.
Yeah. No, and it's totally fine. This whole interview is not going to be about why you didn't choose Slims.
I mean, it could be.
Okay, so in the last conversation we had with the producers and myself when we discussed dive bars, Julia brought up Sandy Hut as a dive bar, and both John and I were like, maybe at one point. You know what I mean?
I was yelling with you while I was listening to the podcast. I was like, they're right. That's exactly correct. Claudia knows what she's talking about.
We're just like, it's a museum.
Right. It is. And it totally is. And there's a particular group of bars in Portland that were all at one point pretty much a dive bar, and a lot of them were being threatened with closures during the pandemic and got bought out by some bar groups that
like
kind of renovated them, like Holman's,
the
Vern. I mean, the Vern was, I think, bought way before the pandemic. But all those places are great, and I'm not trying to like disparage them at all.
Totally.
I think it's a really big service to the neighborhood and keeping these bars going, keeping them alive, but at the cost of the fact that they lose a little bit of that kind of old school sketchy charm.
But it's what like prevented people from going.
Also, yes, exactly. People didn't want to go get stabbed in a bar, so now it's nice.
Yeah.
So the Sandy Hut, I don't think, has been a dive bar for a really long time.
Oh no, since they got a frosé machine. Okay.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Any sort of frosé machine or like cocktail specials, that starts to really push the definition.
Yeah, you're out of here. All right, well, let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, Alex is sharing his picks. Experience art, nature, and science like you've never seen before at Exquisite Creatures Revealed, the newest exhibit from artist Christopher Marley, on view now at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. Exquisite Creatures Revealed features over 10,000 rare birds, reptiles, insects, and other real specimens from around the world in stunning detail, including the first preserved giant corpse flower, which only blooms every 5 to 10 years. And I wonder if it smells, because, it's called the corpse flower for a reason. Visitors of all ages will be awed by the plants, insects, and animals in the exhibit, all of which have been collected or reclaimed by the artist through sustainable means. And just in time for the gift-giving season, you can save on an OMSI membership for you or a loved one, 15% off now through January 5th. Head to omsi.edu. That's omsi.edu. Hey there, listeners. Imagine giving a child the gift of wonder and possibility, one book at a time. United Way of the Columbia Willamette has joined forces with the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to spark a lifelong love of reading for kids right here in our community. And here's how you can help. For just $30, you can cover a year of books for one child. That's 12 opportunities for a family to bond, dream, and learn together. Or you can go big with $150 and support a child from birth to age 5. An entire early education journey made richer by your generosity. Your donation does more than deliver books. It builds brighter futures. Make a difference that lasts a lifetime. Visit UnitedWayPDX.org to make your donation today. Well, let's get to the bars that you did choose. Using the parameters that we're already arguing about, you chose 13 bars that you think are like the quintessential Portland dive bars, which we're going to put your email address, and people can just fight you there.
Yeah, no, just put my house address. They can just show up and we can...
Fisticuffs.
Exactly. But what I was really thinking about when I was creating this list is that for me, another essential part of a dive bar is that they are very rarely, if ever, a destination. That the reason that you go to a dive bar is because it's the closest one to you that you love. And so the most important thing for me with this was to get an accurate spread of the city, which is why, say, Perch was on there rather than Slim's. It's because I only wanted really one from St. John's. I only wanted one in the Selwood Moreland, Brooklyn neighborhood, which is why I went with the Cosmo Lounge. So maybe there's like a dive bar that's slightly better than another one on this list, but it's too close to one of the ones that's already on here that edges it out like a little bit.
Right.
But just to go through it, so I started with the Cosmo Lounge, which was fun because I had completely anticipated that I was going to put the Yukon Tavern on there, which is where I actually spent my 21st birthday. But the Yukon Tavern has gotten cleaned the hell up and it has a great food menu now, and I just don't think it's a dive anymore. It's a great bar, though. You should go there. But the Cosmo Lounge, just down the street from that, right next door to Kay's, is this cool, weird, old-school dive bar. It's super minimalist. Small bar, tiny little video poker room, and then like a bunch of like velvet paintings and mirrors and framed art and things on the walls that just kind of give it these fun vibes.
Does it still have that glowing plastic parrot?
Oh my God, I'm trying to remember. Oh man, I don't remember seeing it, but I might have just missed it.
They used to just be known for that. Again, very kitschy,
Right. Kitschy's a good way to put it. Katie O'Brien's, I actually had wanted to go to for years and I never had until I was doing research for this and absolutely loved it. It kind of is a mixture of an Irish bar, a sports bar, and a dive bar. And one of my favorite things about it are the chairs.
Oh my God, totally.
I don't know if they've got those like easy chairs, those like comfy chairs at the bar, which I've never seen before. You can't rock in most bar chairs.
Yeah.
They're not like leather-clad rocking chairs.
Yeah, so real quick with Katie O'Brien's,
please, yeah,
I see it
absolutely.
as a destination though, because I've literally driven to go there to eat with our producer Julia, because she lives really close to there.
I'm not sure if you are the person that I'm writing about when I'm talking about not traveling to dive bars. You or Julie, I think, have a very different relationship with dive bars than say they're regulars.
Maybe you're right. Because I mean, we would literally, even before then, like we would go to Katie O'Brien specifically for their brunch.
Amazing. Oh yeah, man, I could go on and on, because brunch is like an exception to my food rule. Like a lot of these bars actually have like a decent breakfast, or at least like a cheap breakfast. Angelo's is old school as hell. That whole like eastern part of Hawthorne, up in like the 50s on Hawthorne. I mean, it used to be called the Bermuda Triangle, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in the day it was the Bermuda Triangles where bartenders would hang out. You'd see like crust punks and metalheads and everyone else hanging out at the Space Room and Bar of the Gods, Mighty Mo's Tanker, Angelo's. And Angelo's is kind of like the last holdout of like an actual dive bar in that neighborhood, in my opinion. It's got pool tables. It's got a lot of punk rockers still hanging out there, kind of aging into it. And then nowadays they actually, Michael's Chicago-style sandwiches, which was like Portland's first and only Chicago-style sandwich shop for a long time, unless I'm probably missing something. But they closed their building down a couple of years ago, I think now, and they actually moved next door to Angelo's. So it doesn't technically break my rule, but you can actually get a pretty good Chicago-style sandwich at Angelo's now if you want.
Nice.
Chippewa Tavern, like I said, used to have $1 hot dogs, now they're $5, but, still pretty fun. And it's got this kind of weird step down into this lower area that you go into that has like game room sort of space. And then the bar itself, like you have to step up onto this platform. And all the bar stools come out of that platform that wrap around the bar. Ship Ahoy does that. Slammer does that. I just feel like that's not something that you see at bars anymore. People don't make that kind of elevated step up to the bar, really. But Ship Ahoy has that.
That's where you get that, like saying step up to the bar.
That's true. That's a good point. I never thought about that. Gil's Speakeasy, awesome. It's the closest thing you see to like, I don't know if you ever watched like How I Met Your Mother, but they have the bar at the bottom of their apartment building that they go into all the time. That's like kind of like a basement bar. And I think there's a couple other shows and movies that have those, the kind of cheer style bar under the apartments. And that's what Gil's Speakeasy is.
Yeah. So Gil's Speakeasy Tavern, where is that again?
So that's that's like kind of in the southern part of the East Side Industrial District, like around 7th or 8th, and like just between Hawthorne and Division.
Cool. And what's the next one?
Next one is my favorite on the list, but it was one that I had never been to before, but I'd heard a lot about, or I'd heard about a couple times from bartenders, and usually when bartenders told me about it, they would say, also, don't write about this ever.
Because they don't want people there?
Because they don't want people there. But that's Scooter McQuaid's, which is in downtown Portland, and you've probably driven by it if you're ever getting onto, 405 from downtown, and you drive around the Crystal Ballroom. You're driving right around Scooter at that point. I went there with my girlfriend, and we both thought it was just like our favorite place on our entire list. And it's been around for 100 years, at least the building has. It's been a couple different things there. At one point it was called the Naughty Pine, and it still has these big, great glowing letters that say Naughty Pine on like plywood on the back, right above the video poker machines, which almost every single bar on this list has, except for a couple, like the Slammer. What I wrote is the vibes are like immaculate there, basically. Like really, really great vibes, a lot of positivity. It was really fun. I was informed, I believe by Julia, that in the evenings when shows get out at the Crystal Ballroom, then the bar gets flooded by non-regulars and the energy gets very different at that point.
Yeah, because that's how I've known that bar, is that there's fights there often.
Right, which apparently is only when it's the post-Crystal shows. It's not the regulars that go in there. But I loved that place. I thought it was fantastic. And so that's downtown. Next is Joe's Cellar. So that's in Northwest Portland. That's in Slabtown. I like that one in particular just because of the way that it's weathered the gentrification and the changing neighborhood over the years. Because, Slabtown used to be kind of, there wasn't really a whole lot of reason to go up there. And now it's got like a New Seasons and yoga studios and everything. And Joe's is still just trucking there. It's still just pumping out like cheap breakfast. He's got pool tables, low lighting, natural lighting or anything like that. So you can kind of block out the fact that the neighborhood is completely transformed and just pretend like it's still 1998.
Yeah. So the next one would be Yamhill Pub, which is...
Yamhill Pub. That's the diviest bar in Portland. That is the ultimate dive bar. It's right downtown, but it's on, second, third, something like that. And it's got, I think, like a green awning that protrudes over the door that's like always spray painted. And it has that really iconic AC unit right next to the front door that's kind of dripping water most of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm shocked, honestly, that we haven't had any fatalities at that bar for people walking out.
Oh, yeah, because, the Max...
And directly walking into the Max.
The Max is right there.
Yeah. And there's not even any guardrails. It's just the sidewalk and the Max train.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? The Yamhill Pub is the only bar that I think I've been to with a friend. Like, they were just like, oh, we literally walked in with a slice of pizza. And I was like, oh, is this okay? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And it was the only bar that I walked in and I was like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Where I was like, I don't need this. And it's
you
not
didn't even see the bathroom.
In my mind's eye, I did.
Yeah, you could probably extract what that was going to look like from your...
And no disrespect to Yamhill people who love it, but because my friend, he's like, this is one of my favorite bars. But I just was like, yeah, I now understand like my limit. And it was Yamhill.
It's good to know. It is. No, it's so funny though, because I was taking photos at the Yamhill Pub and I sent it into our extremely harried and hardworking art director. And I was like, hey, can we maybe use some of these like really sketchy, front door photos with the spray painted awning and the air conditioner unit? Can we use those as like the header image for our article? And he was like, I don't want to do that. That's way too bleak. That place looks so depressing. I was like, no, it's authentic. It's authentic.
And he's like, listen, at the end of the day, we still need to freaking have customers here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, next one, which I think is the one that I'm like, if I were going to fight you, Reel 'Em In. Like,
I contradict myself with Reel 'Em In. Absolutely.
That is a destination bar.
Absolutely.
People come from all over. You know what I mean?
I even wrote that in the story, in the copy. It says like people do actually drive here. And it's totally true. It totally violates a lot of my rules. The floor is not that sticky. The bathrooms are, they're all right. Mm-hmm. And the food's really great, right? It has really good fried chicken. But like your bartender is going to be frying your JoJo's and your chicken. It's not like they have a cook. They have a single fryer and it's all fried to order. So you're waiting, upwards of an hour sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think Reel has managed to just maintain its own integrity and its own identity over the years, regardless of how popular it's gotten. And it's not always like, it's not always a destination. I feel like it kind of ebbs and flows with how well known it is, or whether they're offering their fried chicken sandwich as the special. I remember that kind of blew people's minds. But it really has just maintained itself in a pretty rapidly transforming neighborhood and city. And it's just always been Reel 'Em In, and it's always kind of rocked. And it's still, small and cramped and a little weird.
Yeah.
Strong pours.
Yeah, from my memory, it's a woman-owned bar, right?
I don't know, but I don't think I've ever seen my entire life a man working there.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing you're probably right.
It's a woman-owned bar, and I feel like every time I go in there, it's a lady who is like fucking killing it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
because
absolutely.
It's one person, and they're making all the food, they're doing all the drinks, and they're so
doing it
nice.
Effortlessly.
And they're so nice. But at the same time, they're not going to take any shit. It's that beautiful balance of just like, you're going to respect me, but here you go, hun. I
had this ethos for a long time, which is that anyone who really wants to be like a really serious bartender, I don't think you can ever reach the higher echelons of bartending if you haven't spent some time at a speed bar or a dive bar. Something that really puts you through the ringer. And I think a lot of the city's best bartenders have spent time bartending at a dive bar or a club or a strip club or something like that. Something that has really like pushed them.
Okay, so the next one is in St. John's.
It's the Perch.
And it's the Perch Bar and Grill.
We talked about the Perch, right?
Yeah. Well, tell me why you picked the Perch. I'll give you my Perch story afterwards.
Okay, fantastic. I'm extremely eager. Like I said, I was up there in St. John's living for a while, and I decided to go check out some dive bars, and I spent a couple nights at the Perch. It just felt very inviting. Everyone was really friendly whenever I was there. It has that kind of quaint little, like, because like I think it used to be a house like 100 years ago or whatever. It's like this tiny little bungalow space. And, they still has carpeting. I think it has like a single pool table or something like that. And, basically everyone there is going to be a regular because it's like a few blocks away from where they live rather than Slim's, which is like a few more blocks away.
Yeah. So I pass the Perch when I'm on my way to the Lombard House.
Nice. Also good.
But I've been bullied at the perch, and I mean playfully, and this is funny. This is like, I'm not like, woe is me, but I used to go to that gym across the street. So there's a gym. You probably, that's what's funny, is like, you probably didn't notice, but there's a gym across the street. And the best part about that gym is that it used to have like adult like jungle gym, like, you know, you run around and you're like outside and you're doing push-ups, you're doing all this crazy stuff. And we were doing this once on a Sunday. We were running around, we were in front of the gym, we're doing all this dumb shit, but we were into it. And of course the perch is like full of people,
yeah, sure.
and it's 9 or 10 a.m. It's something like, you're just like, what are you? And they were just all out there just being like, woo!
So you had like cheering squad. You had this like supportive group of
yeah, and they're just like, give me 20.
See, with that story, I think it really vindicates my choice to put the perch on there.
I've been wanting to check it out because they have a Taco Tuesday, and like I really want to like go to everybody's Taco Tuesday. I know they're not going to be awesome, but like I love a Taco Tuesday.
That's such a good idea for like a crawl or just like a roundup or something like that, is like the best Taco Tuesdays in town. That doesn't mean you have to end up at Lucky Devil at some point, though.
Oh no.
They do Taco Tuesday.
I'm sorry. They do tacos every day. Okay, so the next one is a Slammer Tavern.
It's a Slammer. Everyone loves the Slammer, right? The Slammer's classic. So Southeast Portland, right, Buckman neighborhood. One of the best parts about the Slammer is that it's kind of like an endpoint. So you go to Rum Club, or you go to Scotch Lodge, or you go to Rum Club and Scotch Lodge, or you go to Normandy or Loyal Legion, you know, all these really awesome restaurants and bars around that neighborhood. And then once you've had a few fancy cocktails and spent $100, you go over to the Slammer Tavern. And it's really noticeable, especially right now that it's post-Thanksgiving and in wintertime. They always have Christmas lights, but during the holiday season, they deck it out even more. I don't even know what that place used to be, because I don't think it could have been a bar from its beginning, because it's like the weirdest interior layout. There's like a skee ball machine in one corner and this weird kind of U-shaped bar, but it only has seats on one side of it. And then this kind of side room that feels almost more like a storage space than it does an actual like dining room.
Yeah. Well, the next one is Mad Hannah in Cully. You know, I keep hearing about Mad Hannah. I've never been in. Like, what's the vibe?
So Mad Hannah is one that I had to consider pretty strongly, because it is starting to border on not quite a dive. So I believe it's been the same owner for ever, basically. It actually says on the website that it's like the cleanest dive bar you'll ever be in. And so it's not that it's getting too cool or anything like that. It's just that it is like a really, really nice space. The floor apparently used to be a lot stickier than it is now. My friend I was with while I was visiting there again for research said that last time she was there, she actually like for a second couldn't move off of the bar floor because like her feet were stuck to it.
No. Yeah.
But now it's like it's much cleaner. They've got a huge back patio area that's always really busy in summertime. They have this cute little thing where you can go in there and buy a drink for somebody who's not there, and you'll put their name and their order up on this like post-it board. And next time they come in, if they see their name up there, they can claim their drink. I just think that's kind of a cute little setup. But it also does have a huge wall of video poker, and people usually playing on that. So I felt that kind of helped nudge it over the finish line to constitute a dive bar. And it's just one of the best bars in the Beaumont/Coley, you know, that kind of deeper Northeast Portland area. Like really, really welcoming, friendly bar.
Yeah. Well, the last one on the list is the Lion's Eye in Lentz. Tell me about that one.
I just really liked the bar. I was actually cat sitting out in that neighbor in Lentz. You know, there's not a lot going on in that part of Lentz, I'm going to be honest. Like once you're in that side of 82nd, there's just not a ton. You have to kind of go down to like Woodstock if you really want to get into it. But there's the Lion's Eye, and like Slammer, it has this big U-shaped bar in the center, and it does have drink specials. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's super divey. We got drink specials, but it's just a cool space. Again, super friendly. Like every time I've been in there, all the bartenders have been really, really nice. There's some pinball machines, there's pool tables, and I believe there's no video poker there. I think it's actually worth noting. It is, I think, a little bit unique to Oregon. I know that like our laws around gambling and our Keno system and everything is a little unique to our state. I know other states have video poker and gambling, but Oregon is more lax about certain elements of that.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, and I haven't been able to confirm this in a minute, but from what I heard years ago is that a lot of these bars, a lot of dive bars, a lot of strip clubs especially, they actually rely heavily on the income that they make off of video poker. Like that is their main source of revenue.
You're literally selling liquor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
And
you
that's
think that
still
would be
not
enough?
No,
Wow.
at least not for strip clubs. And I believe a lot of dive bars make more of their revenue through video poker than they do through liquor sales. Especially because it's cheap, right? Like that's one of the other things about dive bars. You're usually not paying more than, $7 or $8 for a shot, even today in 2024.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thanks for going through your list. I mean, if anybody wants more details, they can read your article. But I really actually appreciate all the time and the effort and just hearing like your thinking behind this. So like this was a very sincere effort because I feel like sometimes people put these lists together and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. One of my goals with this list was that if anyone was going to be upset with me for a bar on there, it was because it was not on there. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want anyone to call me out and be like, that's not a dive bar. You should not have included that on there. I really wanted to make sure that everyone on there was really, really well vetted and was an actual, what I think of as a dive bar.
Well, you did it, Alex. You did it. Well, thanks for coming on, and hopefully you'll come back.
Thank you.
And,
I'd love to.
Yeah.
And I also need to check out, what is it, Wildwood? Is that
Wildwood. Yeah, I think they have Julia's picture on, like above the bar. Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.